your weather outlook today, and it's amazing how we've just been having this light showers in the past couple of days. Very beautiful, especially when you're going to sleep, but when you have to wake up and the drizzle, you do not want to leave bed. Let's get to the stories making headlines in the dailies today. We begin with the Standard, your bold newspaper, and the man behind Westgate attack is the headline today. Most wanted Mohammed Abdir Kadir Mohammed, also known as Ikirima, and a former CIA agent tells of his 5-year association with Al-Shabaab terrorist, described as the key organizer of the September 21st assault, and who is now on the list of the world's most wanted terrorists. Details of that story are on page 3. We'll cross over now, and suspected Westgate Mall attack architect regarded as one of the most dangerous Shabaab commanders. So it's a Kenyan Al-Shabaab operative who is said to have been the key organizer at the September 21st Westgate attack, which left at least 67 dead. He's now on the list of the world's most wanted terrorists. The suspect, Abdir Kadir Mohammed, also known as Ikirima, a native of Mombasa, is now regarded as one of the most dangerous Al-Shabaab commanders. He speaks 5 languages. Yeah, that is one of the things this report is saying, and is said to be in the central command of a terror web that connects operatives in Kenya, Yemen, Somalia, and the West. So U.S. officials have confirmed to CNN that he was the target of a U.S. Navy SEAL Team 6 raid in a compound near the dusty town of Barawe on October 5th. U.S. troops came under fire, and Ikirima is reported to have escaped. You can get more details of that man, who is now one of the most wanted terrorists in the world. And the headline picture on the Standard, there is the demolition, the structures alongside the railway line in Mutindwa yesterday. And passengers board a train at the Umoja halt in Mutindwa, Nairobi, next to structures demolished yesterday following an order by Transport Cabinet Secretary Michael Kamau. This is where a train crashed into a minibus, killing 12 people and injuring several others last week. This demolition's happening at the dawn yesterday. Also, another story here is Raila offers to lead talks on Tanzania EAC row. A report by Geoffrey Musoku says that the former premier has offered to intervene and end the suspicion that is threatening to break up EAC. Raila wants EAC heads of state to appoint a panel of statesmen from the region's countries to address outstanding issues that have seen a story that continues on page 4, that have seen Dar es Salaam government threaten to quit the regional body. He says, and quote, "I want to propose to regional heads of state that a panel of statesmen from EAC be put together to work out a mechanism to resolve the impasse and put the union back on track." Raila indicated that he was willing to be Kenya's representative on the panel, while appealing to President Uhuru Kenyatta, Yoweri Museveni of Uganda, Kikwete of Tanzania, and Kagame of Rwanda to urgently pick the panel. To page 2 of the Standard newspaper this Wednesday, Democracy Under Attack is coverage on the ongoing debate and discussions on media laws. And there's Duale calls for dialogue with players in media industry. Majority Leader Duale calls for dialogue with players in the industry on the oppressive bill with the potential to gag journalists and cripple media houses. However, the chairman of the House Committee on Energy, Communication and Information, Mr. Jamlek Kamau, representative of Kigumo, said there was nothing wrong with the bill. He maintained, here I quote, "As the chair of the committee, I am very clear that the bill is very constitutional, and I will even ask the president to assent to that bill," said Kamau, who appeared stung by the public outrage following the approval of the amendments to the Kicker Bill 2013. And there's pressure mounting against bill seeking to gag media. NGOs plan to launch a drive for 3 million signatures to petition President Kenyatta not to assent to bills. Civil society organizations have upped the tempo against oppressive media laws. and warned that draconian laws were also targeting the non-governmental organizations. Remember that they should not receive funding from international organizations. So a joint meeting of stakeholders with an interest in the media cautioned that the democratic space was being shut down systematically. And besides laws gagging the media, the government has targeted NGOs with legislation limiting their operations and sources of funding. More details on page 2 of the Standard today. And there's, of course, the Ngilu woes on page 4 of the Standard, and MPs set the stage for removal of Ngilu from office over illegal appointments. And there you see Ngilu speaking at a Senate Legal Affairs and Human Rights Committee with Vice Chairman Dan Monzo listens. Ngilu appeared before the committee on Tuesday. So Cabinet Secretary Charity Ngilu's woes in Parliament piled up last evening after an MP filed an amendment to a probe report designed to set the stage for her removal from office. And if the National Assembly does in fact uphold the amendment to the report that condemns Ngilu for making illegal appointments, it would open the door for MPs to kick Ngilu out of the cabinet. Ugunja MP Opiyo Wandayi wants the House to resolve that Ngilu should take, quote, full responsibility for the unconstitutional, illegal, irregular, and unprocedural acts of creating offices and making arbitrary appointments, promotions, transfers of staff in the ministry. And more details there as well. And also at the bottom of that page, an interesting story: women beat men to acquiring online education. More women are learning through online academic programs compared to men. According to Advanced Learning Interactive System Online, a provider of free online studies, 65% of those who enroll are women who previously could not access the services. And of course, this associated to the many roles that a woman will play, from being a mother, a wife, and all this, going to school, and perhaps sometimes business as well. And so online classes always seem the way to meet that balance. On page 6, Kandia reassures tourists of safety following the attack. There were concerns that following that Westgate attack, those tourism numbers would be affected, but Kandia is offering reassurances here. And Cabinet Secretary says government has put in place measures to ensure safety of all its international visitors. Kenya yesterday used the opening of the 4-day-long world travel market in the UK to reassure international tourists of their safety while holidaying in the country. You know, those festive season, it's just around the corner. December is coming up in a few, about 2.5 weeks. And Cabinet Secretary for Tourism, East African Affairs and Commerce, Ms. Phyllis Kandie, who's leading over 50 companies from the local travel and hospitality industry, reassured travelers that Kenya remains a safe country despite the recent Westgate attacks by terrorists. So the Kenyan delegation is among other 5,000 suppliers of travel and tourist products who are meeting to discover and negotiate the latest travel industry trends and opinions at the WTM, one of the largest tourism fairs in the world. Also on that page, there's a picture there, 40 days, it says. Police officers restrained residents of Nesuit in Njoro yesterday who were baying for the blood of a group of suspected robbers that were arrested for attacking locals. The gang of 6 is reported to have been attacking residents using crude weapons. That picture you can see on your screen also. And there is this condom story that has been making headlines, and group raises concern over looming condom shortage in the country. And the war against HIV and AIDS will be seriously hampered in the face of a looming shortage of condoms in the country. The National Empowerment Network for People Living with HIV and AIDS in Kenya, NEFAC, is raising the red flag that government's effort in reducing new HIV infections could be hit if the shortage is not addressed. And remember, last week, the Cabinet Secretary Health had issued a reassurance that they would ensure that shortage does not happen, but concern continues to be raised about the effects of that shortage if the government does not act quickly. Right, and then there is that standoff between the MCAs, the members of the county assemblies, and the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. And so on page 4, there's a story there. On page 7, I beg your pardon, county reps reject SRC bid to reevaluate jobs. The SRC had indicated that it must first conduct a re-evaluation exercise around the country before it makes considerations on the pay increase that's being demanded by the assembly members. So the MCAs unanimously resolved not to resume sessions until their job demands have been considered by the commission, and the standoff escalated after they rejected that job evaluation. And following a consultative meeting held in Nairobi, the MCAs unanimously resolved not to resume assembly sessions. And this, of course, affecting operations at the county level. The county-wide representatives' latest stand goes contrary to the SRC chairperson's directive that the salaries deadlock will only be resolved once they resume work and are subjected to a job evaluations. So MCAs unhappy with handling of the matter. The MCAs expressed their disappointment with the Commission's report, which explained how they arrived at the current salaries and the grading. And more details are on that page of the Standard. And two more quick stories here. Safaricom half-year profit swells 11.3 billion shillings. It is what, that's where the numbers are standing at now for Safaricom. And telecom attributes increase to rise in money spent by customers and stable macroeconomic environment. Telecommunications giant Safaricom reported a 38% growth in profit before tax in the 6 months ending September. Safaricom on service quality has been at loggerheads, of course, with CCK over quality of service. The CCK quality of service tests are performed on 8 parameters that include call success rate, number of dropped calls, and clarity of connection. You can get more details of that story there. And of course, the other one on page 9 that is making headlines, and it's Machakos, set to launch that Machakos City, and there's an issue over land. The Machakos City plan runs into trouble as Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Felix Koskei accuses the governor, Mutua, of, quote, grabbing ministry land to build this city. Koskei claimed the county government had seized 1,450 acres belonging to the ministry and built a road, governor's house, and sunk a borehole without consent. So the latest claim may jeopardize Friday's launch that's set to be presided over by President Uhuru Kenyatta. Mutua, however, declined to comment on the row. To the Standard, when pressed to comment on whether it was true his house was being constructed on part of the land, he replied, quote, I still don't have any comment. All right. Let's have a look at the pullout, extra pullout today. The stories you will find inside that free pullout for you in the Standard, and it's the mineral cast. That's the headline today in Extra. Local people push investors for bigger share. Pages 2, 3 to 5 of the Extra pullout, and it's balancing act for investors in mineral resources as prospects of a mineral boom become more viable. Local communities in East Africa are pushing investors to give them a greater say in how products are exploited. And for the locals, it does make sense when people come to your local area for investment, then it begs the question, why should the people living around not benefit from that or even have a say? And we've seen that situation as well play out in Turkana with the Tullow Oil and its work and the protests there in the recent past as well. Replacing the starter motor, that's on page 4 of the Extra pullout, and discussing errant pastors as well is a story you'll find on page 12. And urine tests can detect blood clots on page 8 of Extra. Let's go to Fever Pitch, and the headline on Fever Pitch is Operation Rio. That is one of the stories there. Paul True and Kenya Rugby Union Chairman Mwangi Muthee at the function where he was unveiled as National Sevens coach yesterday. You'll see him right there. And True unveiled as coach, declares lofty ambition. Details are on page 71. Pedro expects Messi magic in AC Milan clash today. Details are on page 69 and page 71. Gor Mahia's reality check as they face a 100 million shillings budget. Can get those stories, spot stories on those pages, and of course so much more. To the Daily Nation now. China leads UN fight to delay the Kenya cases. Chinese ambassador, who is currently chairing the Security Council, argues that putting the case off for 1 year is a matter of international security, as ICC prosecutor opposes Uhuru bid to stop case against him. Details are on page 4 and 5, and the headline picture on the Nation: regional stability. Uhuru in talks with other leaders of a peace in the DR Congo. And the talks come amid heavy fighting. And these are background information. President joined 7 other heads of state in Pretoria for a summit on the conflict in DRC. Talks came in the wake of renewed fighting in the Congo, where rebels yesterday surrendered after an onslaught by government forces. The UN Security Council president has said that Kenya and Mr. Kenyatta play a critical role in international peace, an argument he says can justify a delay of the Kenya cases at the ICC. And that, of course, is Kenya, as Mr. Kenyatta, the president, with Jacob Zuma in South Africa. And exposed how youths abuse HIV medicine is a report that's on page 2 of the Daily Nation today. Youths abusing drugs meant for HIV emergencies, a report that's here, and doctors are worried that those abusing what are called the PEP pills do not take the full dosage, thus not only risking infection, but also incubating a virus which is resistant to medication. There are more details of that story there as well. And Bensouda rejects Uhuru bid to end case on page 5 of the Daily Nation today. ICC Chief Prosecutor Fatou Bensouda has asked the court to reject the application by President Kenyatta to stop charges against him because it, quotes, comes nowhere near the high threshold required for a stay, end of quote. The prosecution is also opposed to holding an evidentiary hearing that the accused had requested as an alternative to dropping the charges against him. Also on the same page, Sang used his radio program to preach peace, defense says. So whilst the argument by prosecution has been that he was inciting the masses using his show, the defense, using the witness here, said that in fact Sang was preaching peace and asking his listeners not to go out for mass action as had been called for by ODM at the time. On the back page of the Daily Nation today, Kerich faces more fraud charges, and the former hospital fund boss and top officials accused of conspiracy to defraud insurer of 96 million through tender. Get more details of those more charges that Kerich and others are facing in the back page of the Daily Nation. Let's cross to the Star newspaper. And the headline, State House staff go without salaries. That's the headline story in the Star today. And new State House staff are struggling to survive months after taking up their new posts with the presidency. Staff who had previously not worked at State House are yet to get office space and official vehicles. Many are yet to get on the government payroll. Previously, staff working for the presidency were mostly based at the office of the president on Harambee Avenue. However, President Kenyatta has now moved all operations of his office to State House. And those affected include members of the Presidential Strategic Communication Unit and Office of the First Lady, who were previously based elsewhere in the city. More details of that on page 6. And MPs decide Minister Ngilu's fate today. So the MPs are expected to adopt the report today, paving way for a censure motion, which if passed will force the president to sack Ngilu. And there's also that continuing stories of MPs defending draconian media bill. They remain defiant, saying that it is in fact not unconstitutional. Page 2 of the Star today, Hustler's jet illegally hired. You remember that story a while back, and it's back now. It's in the Star today. The former head of procurement at the office of the Deputy President has said the process used to hire the Hustler's jet was unprocedural. Evans Nyachieo told the Public Accounts Committee of the National Assembly yesterday that the LSOs used in the hiring of the aircraft were not signed by the accountant in charge. Interesting developments on that Hustler's jet and of course of the Deputy President, the name that it acquired over time. And there's Botswana backs ICC deferral bid. Of course, there's countries that are in favor and some are against. That's the story. You'll find details on page 3. And of course, other stories including a widow's justice bid over 800-acre land on page 4 of the Star today. Rest in peace, overgrown cemeteries, disrespectful to the dead is a feature story on the Star pages 26 and 27. Quickly run you through the Star sports today. Players lose it, that's on cricket news, and indiscipline by players threaten the image and tranquility of what is called the gentleman's game. That's cricket. On football news, Bandari still seek venue for Sonny Tai, and strong international field for Concourse Dologans, as well as story in the Star Sport today. Let me take you through the stories in the headline page of the People now as we wind up. And the headline, Ngilu 6 called help to fight report. So while she's facing some resistance and opposition from her own Jubilee coalition, this story here saying that she's seeking help from court. Desperate measure, Lands Cabinet Secretary pulls unlikely move as she seeks opposition MPs to seek, as she meets opposition MPs to seek their support against a damaging parliamentary committee report seeking to oust her. So under intense fire from members of parliament, including some from her Jubilee side, Ngilu yesterday was reported to have sought help from unlikely quarters among CORD MPs. Sources told the People that it became apparent some Jubilee MPs formed the ranks of those who are out to get her ejected from the cabinet. Details are on page 4 on that story. Also, Speaker digs in on media bill. Details on page 4. Parliament to forward draconian law to President for action. And on page 5 of the People today, ICC case, judges give reasons why Ruto was allowed to skip trial sittings. Remember, he's in the country now, and we've seen quite a number of those excusals to be in the country whilst the president is out to hold fort. So the judges giving reasons as to why they allowed that to happen. And you remember the other week as well, they denied for Sang to come. He had requested to attend his daughter's graduation. And another story in the People today, crisis stalks health sector over devolution. Details there, a story that continues on page 4 of the People. So do grab yourself a copy of the Standard today to get details of those stories and of course so much more. It is now 6:54 a.m. We want to have a look at how your roads will look like this morning. Courtesy of Ma3 Routes, they always have amazing updates, people tweeting on where they are every morning, the situation on the road, and it's good, even as you live where you are, to perhaps know how the roads are looking. And the tweets right now, Langata Road bypass a mess. That's one of the tweets we are seeing this morning. Also, avoid the highway if you don't want to be late. That's near Pangani. Use service lane. That's as far as Thika Road is concerned. And traffic at Deloitte from Westie, a G4S lorry plunged into a ditch. Updates from Wayaki Way. Also, Jogoo Road is better today. Jam from Muthurwa, Juakali, but it's moving. So if you're on that side of town, things are moving, but a little bit of a snarl up. Mombasa Road was smooth all the way to CBD. You get better, it's getting better by the day, but of course traffic expected to pick up as the hours go by. And those are some of the latest updates courtesy of Mathri route. So wherever you are, if you're heading out, tweet me at Sophia Wanuna. Let me know how the roads are looking at you. And even if you're not in Nairobi, would like to give updates of Nakuru and Mombasa and Kisumu as well. Let us know how the roads there are looking. We want to take a short break, but to remind you, our question of the day. Later on, we are getting to Jua. The people of Tujuane will be hosting the hosts. We'll be talking about the show. It's one that really has gotten quite a number of people talking. We get the Tujuane hashtag trending every Tuesday. Amazing, interesting people we get to see on the show. And it's really about blind dates because in essence, these people don't know each other and they're coming all trying to find love. And we are relational beings, and today we're talking a bit about that, finding love, finding that person for you. But we're asking you, can you find the love of your life through a blind date? Yeah, 22155. Can you? Someone over here is nodding. I think maybe he has tried that. At Sophia Wanuna, at KTN Kenya is our Twitter. You can reach us there on Twitter. Remember, the hashtag is Morning Express KTN. Also post on our Facebook. I'll sample your views as we go along with the show. Stay with us. We are back in a moment.